Maeva Kale moved like shadow on steel. Her boots whispered across the grated walkway as she pushed the mop along a smear of hydraulic fluid, or blood. Hard to tell anymore. Lights flickered overhead, tired from years of neglect, while the industrial hum of Delta IX's reactor groaned beneath her feet. She scrubbed harder. Not for cleanliness. For focus. No one noticed her. Not the guards, not the researchers. Not the engineers huddled in mess halls arguing about oxygen rations. Janitors, like rats in ductwork, blended into the bones of the station. Which suited Maeva just fine. A siren wailed 2 decks below. Brief. Muted. Quickly silenced. She didn't flinch. She bent to wring out the mop, eyes catching the reflection in the water bucket, a flicker of movement in the upper rafters. Gone in an instant. She sighed. They were getting sloppy. Maeva finished the section and moved toward the lift. Behind her, the wall panel near the reactor access vent was ajar, by 2 centimeters. Unlocked. She stopped. Tilted her head. Listened. Nothing. No footsteps. No whir of drones. She stepped to the panel and gently pulled it open. Inside, a faint coppery scent hit her nose. Blood. Definitely blood. And something else. A boot still attached to half a leg. The rest of the body was folded awkwardly behind a coolant pump, like garbage crammed behind furniture. Maeva knelt, her expression unchanged. Just another dead man. His ID tag blinked red, J. Morales, Engineering Team B. His eyes stared at her like he'd been surprised when it happened. They always were. She spotted the incision just below the ear, surgical, precise. Something had been extracted, or implanted. Maeva didn't speak. Instead, she slid a finger behind her ear, pressing a small, nearly invisible switch beneath her hairline. A retinal overlay flickered to life, military tech long thought obsolete. Delta IX's internal security grid shimmered into view. Cameras, heat signatures, communication traffic. A flood of encrypted data streamed across her field of vision. She blinked, filtering by unauthorized biosignature movement. 2 pings. One in the restricted labs. One approaching. She shut off the overlay. Closed the panel. Straightened. Then casually wheeled her mop bucket toward the access shaft, just before a pair of boots rounded the corner. "Hey!" barked a voice. Yum. Nervous. Security recruit, probably on his first solo patrol. "What are you doing down here?" Maeva didn't pause. "Leak from pipe 42D. Reactor floor gets slick. I logged it with maintenance command." She tapped her ID badge. Maeva Kale. Sanitation. The guard checked his wrist pad, hesitated. "You shouldn't be." She cut him off. "Then you can tell your CO I left it for someone else to clean. And he can explain to Thorne why a tech broke their neck in a puddle of synth blood." His jaw tightened. He stepped aside. She didn't smile as she passed. Just moved on, slow and steady, until he was gone. Then, she turned off the lift call and doubled back down a maintenance shaft, the kind even security avoided. The kind that led somewhere dangerous. 10 minutes later, she emerged in Deck 13's low-traffic zone. The lights were dimmer here. Cameras less frequent. She walked into her quarters, room C-117, listed in the system as non-essential housing. Spartan. Single bed. 1 trunk. 1 vent grill that didn't belong. She locked the door. Drew the blinds. Then knelt beside the floor panel and opened it. Inside, packed tight in foam and sealed in vacuum polymer, was a black case. On its surface, no markings. No hinges. Just a retinal scanner, and a phrase etched in old Terran glyphs. "Only if the stars die." Maeva stared at the phrase a long moment before placing her eye to the scanner. Ping. The seal hissed open. Inside lay a small cube, no bigger than a fist. Matte black, lined with quantum fibers, silent as the grave. She pressed her thumb to its base. A pulse of blue lit up. "Ghost protocol," she whispered. The cube vibrated once. Somewhere far beyond Titan, a dormant ship stirred. A being neither fully man nor machine opened his eyes for the first time in years. Maeva stood and walked to the mirror. Her reflection looked back, tired, lined, quietly determined. They called her the Cleaner. They didn't know how right they were. She had seen wars tear planets in half. She had watched soldiers melt from orbital fire. She had crawled through the wreckage of Earth's last stand. And then she walked away from it all. Because she loved him. And he had sworn never to wake unless she called. Now she had. Back in the hall, unseen to most, a red warning light blinked on a control panel. Unauthorized signal detected. Level, Omega threat. Security response, elevated. Somewhere, Dr. Elric Thornwell watched the feed. A janitor? He murmured, zooming in on the signal origin. That is unexpected. He smiled. But it wouldn't last. Not once he arrived. Thornwell stood before a bank of holoscreens, his fingers twitching across virtual panels like a conductor before a symphony of shadows. The unauthorized signal had lasted 6 seconds. That was long enough. Trace the source, he snapped. A technician flinched. Deck 9 Maintenance Quarters, Room C-117. A janitor. Thornwell said it as if the word offended him. Pull her records. A few moments passed. The screen displayed, Maeva Kale. Civilian. Level 0 clearance. 41. Assigned, Sanitation Unit. No military background. No cybernetic implants. Just a broom pusher. The tech added. Thornwell's jaw twitched. Then why did she send a ghost code beacon routed through a defunct Terran military node? Silence answered him. He leaned forward, voice cold. Send a retrieval unit. Bring her in quietly. I want her alive. Maeva was already moving. She'd memorized the shift cycles. She knew when the maintenance corridors emptied, when cameras looped for calibration, when air duct vacuums masked footsteps. She descended into Deck 9 through a ladder shaft most people didn't know existed, wedged between coolant regulators and archaic wiring conduits. It smelled like rust and stale protein paste. A locked grate blocked her path. She reached into her coat and produced a tool, custom, compact, with a magnetic tip tuned to Delta 9's old security firmware. She bypassed the lock in under 10 seconds. The door slid open without a sound. She entered the place no one dared, the sub-research wing. Officially, it was storage. In reality, it was something far worse. As she slipped inside, motion sensors tried to activate lights. Nothing. She liked it better that way. Maeva passed rows of sealed pods, metal coffins, humming faintly. Inside each floated a human shape, barely discernible behind frosted glass. Some twitched. Some were still. She kept her face still. Thornwell had gone further than rumors claimed. These weren't just experiments, they were weapon trials. Half-conscious people, patched with artificial nervous systems, blank stares locked in loops of confusion and pain. Her overlay lit up, biosignature detected. Sector 9B, moving fast. She ducked behind a pillar as heavy boots echoed down the corridor. A retrieval unit, 4 men, armed with electroshock rifles and null-field gauntlets. Their visors scanned the area in sweeping arcs. She's in here, one of them muttered. She's just a janitor, said another. Maeva's eyes narrowed. They keep saying that. She waited. Let them pass. Then moved. A maintenance drone socket lay half-hidden near a coolant pipe. She opened it, pulled the emergency grid override. Lights died across 3 sections of Deck 9. In the dark, panic took hold. What the hell? Lights just cut. She's here, watch the corners. Maeva didn't watch. She moved. Silent. Fast. Behind one of them before he even turned. A swift jab to the base of the skull with her stun baton, repurposed from an old scrub rod, dropped him. His rifle clattered. She caught it before it hit the floor. The next saw her. Contact! Too late. Maeva dropped and rolled, firing once, shoulder shot. Non-lethal. The man screamed, hitting the deck. The others scrambled, confused. She was already gone. 2 corridors over, she hacked a wall panel, locked the blast doors behind her, and sealed the sector. Her breathing came steady. Controlled. This wasn't new. This was old blood. The kind that never dried. She reached the far end of the sector and entered a side lab marked Level Red. Security clearance flashed red. She overrode it. Inside was what she came for. A console labeled Project Hologate. A stasis pod sealed behind titanium glass. The display read: Subject, Callan Kale. Status, dormant. Containment class, Juggernaut 1A. Authorization level, Black Sigma. She exhaled. He was still here. The pod hissed as it recognized her biometrics. Lights flickered. She touched the glass. Hey, love, she whispered. Time to wake up. Behind her, alarms screamed. Emergency lighting snapped on. In the Central Ops Center, Thornwell's eyes lit with fascination. She accessed the Juggernaut chamber. The technician stammered. Should I lock it down? No, Thornwell whispered. Let's see what happens. I want to meet him. Back in the lab, the pod cracked open like a coffin disturbed. Steam poured out. Callan Kale stepped forward. 8 feet tall. Black exoarmor fused with living tissue. Scarred plates, muscles reinforced with carbon-threaded sinew. His skin shimmered like obsidian under dim light. He didn't speak. Just looked at Maeva. His eyes, glowing faint blue, softened. I thought you were dead, he said. His voice was low, a rumble. Not robotic. Human. Not yet, she replied. His expression darkened. But someone's going to be. She handed him the rifle. They're not ready for you. He smiled. They never were. Outside, the retrieval team regrouped. Target confirmed near 9B. Back up inbound. Then the lights dimmed. Metal groaned. And something stepped into the corridor, massive, armored, radiating raw kinetic energy. One guard dropped his weapon. What the? Callan moved. Not fast. Not loud. But when he reached them, it was over in seconds. Crushed armor. Broken bones. Silence. Maeva watched from the shadows. Not with horror. With relief. The cage was open. Delta 9 shook. Not from impact. From something moving. Sector 9 was in blackout. Emergency sirens howled. Airlock bulkheads slammed shut on automated cycles. Inside Command Deck 7, Thornwell leaned forward, elbows on glass, watching through a live drone feed. Callan Kale was loose. His frame absorbed light. He walked without haste, without hesitation. Where walls met him, they gave way. Where men stood, they didn't stand long. Activate facility defense grid, Thornwell ordered. The technician beside him fumbled. But sir, he's inside the secured zone. If we seal it now, we trap our own men. Thornwell's voice cut sharp. They're already dead. Callan walked through the security hall like it was mist. A sentry drone fired a high-velocity round. He caught it midair. Tossed it aside. One backhand reduced the drone to junk. Behind him, Maeva moved calmly, still untouched. Her hand rested on a small console disk, the kind that looped her body heat and masked her biosignature. She knew how this dance worked. Callan turned a corner. 3 guards stood, rifles aimed. He didn't stop. The first opened fire. Bullets pinged off his chest plate like hail on steel. The second fired a shock round. Callan absorbed it with a low hum, then surged forward. He didn't punch. He swatted, a motion with no more effort than brushing away dust. The man flew backward, crashed through a support column, and stayed down. The last one ran. Callan led him. Maeva caught up. Still holding back? Callan tilted his head. A little. Why? I'm saving it. They reached the central control corridor, just one deck below Thornwell's command dome. Maeva opened her pack, revealing a hand-sized black disc. EMP? Callan nodded. Give me 60 seconds after detonation. She moved ahead, crouching behind a decommissioned power relay. She slid the disc into place, pressed the core. A dull pulse rang through the station. Lights died. Screens went black. Thornwell's feed vanished in a flash of static. He stood up slowly. So, he remembers how to play. In the dark, Callan moved faster. His eyes adapted instantly. He saw heat. He saw movement. He saw fear. 3 automated turrets came online as emergency reserves kicked in. They locked on his position. He leapt. In midair, he twisted, tore one turret from the ceiling, landed in a crouch, and hurled the metal carcass into the second. Sparks flew. The third fired. Maeva dove to the floor. The round missed her by inches. Callan was already there, crushing the final turret with his boot. Turrets? Maeva asked, breath catching. He shrugged. Cute. Topside, Thornwell pulled a metal case from beneath the console. Inside, a single syringe filled with silver-blue fluid. Labeled, Neurobridge X1. You brought this on yourself, he whispered. Then he injected it into his neck. A tremor ran through his limbs. Muscles tightened. Pupils dilated. Artificial synapses synced with wetware. Behind the chamber wall, a pod hissed open. A prototype stepped out. Sleek. Polished. Humanoid only in outline. 12 feet tall. Multi-limbed. Its armor shifted like liquid. At its core, a stolen AI consciousness, ripped from 5 failed human trials. Thornwell smiled, eyes glowing faintly now. Let's go greet our guest. Callan reached the main lift. Maeva scanned her overlay. We're 2 floors below Thornwell. Then we walk. The lift wasn't an option. Not anymore. As they entered the stairwell, a blast from above threw them both backward. The wall behind them warped inward. Out stepped the prototype. Callan rose first. They always overdesign these things. Maeva backed off. That's not just tech. I'm reading 5 neural patterns inside that thing. Fused. The machine cocked its head. It spoke, but not with one voice. 5 voices. Male and female, layered and hollow. Kale. The Terran Reaper. Callan blinked slowly. You're not impressive. You're desperate. It lunged. What followed wasn't a fight, it was a collision. Callan met the charge, locking arms with the prototype. Steel groaned. Sparks lit the stairwell. The floor beneath them cracked. Maeva ducked as debris flew past her. The prototype adapted fast, its limbs split into whips tipped with plasma edges. One wrapped around Callan's arm, cutting deep. He grunted, pivoted, and slammed the thing into the wall hard enough to dent titanium. The wall held. Barely. It retaliated, stabbing with an arm blade. Callan caught it with both hands, twisted, and snapped it off like a twig. He drove the jagged piece into its torso. It barely slowed. Maeva scrambled across the floor to a side panel and forced it open. There's a maintenance vent. You'll have to draw it this way. Callan grabbed the machine's head, slammed it into the floor, then looked back. Vent it is. She dove in first. He followed. The prototype recovered fast. It tore through the vent wall, pursuing them like a serpent. Callan turned in the tunnel, crouched, and waited. As it slithered closer, he kicked off the wall and launched himself backward, shoulder first. The impact shoved the creature through a pressure seal and into a shaft below. He reached down. Pulled Maeva up. That bought us a minute. A minute's all I need. In Thornwell's private chamber, alarms blared. He stepped to the balcony above the reactor core, watching the damage unfold. Callan and Maeva now moved directly toward him. He tapped the side of his temple. Neural link initiated. Override safety on prototype. Full cognitive burn. Somewhere below, the prototype screamed, not in pain. In hate. Back on the floor, Maeva watched as lights flickered back to life. Her overlay returned. He's going to burn the AI, she said. Last failsafe. It'll go berserk. Callan cracked his knuckles. Then I stop holding back. The prototype dropped from the ceiling. No warning. One moment silence, the next, a thunderclap of twisted metal and shrieking hydraulics. Callan didn't flinch. He sidestepped just as the thing crashed down, shattering the deck. Shards of floor skittered across the corridor like razors. It was faster now. Unstable. Burning through itself. Maeva ducked behind a collapsed conduit, tapping into a nearby interface. Thornwell's feeding it raw neurofire. It's going to melt its core in minutes. Then I won't need long. Callan's voice was low, steady. The prototype charged again, fluid, monstrous, no longer human in any shape or thought. Its limbs contorted with unnatural speed, blades shifting mid-motion. Callan matched it blow for blow. He caught one arm, twisted. Bone like aloe snapped. The machine reacted by sending a spike through his thigh. He grunted, more annoyed than hurt, and drove his forehead into its face. The blow dented the plating. They staggered apart. Maeva pulled a wire from the wall, jammed it into her console. 5 minutes until the core reactor purges. This whole floor's going to blow. The prototype roared, no language now, only sound. Maeva looked up. You sure you can take it down before that? Callan cracked his neck. I'm not trying to take it down. He launched forward, grabbed the prototype, and drove it through the floor. The reactor chamber hissed below them, a sun in a cage. Callan landed hard, the prototype beneath him. It twisted, slammed both fists into his ribs, and rolled them over. Callan's back hit steel. The machine pinned him with one knee and began driving its fist into his chest plate. Again. And again. Maeva arrived seconds later, dropping into the observation deck, eyes scanning for leverage. There was none. This was brute force against brute force. Callan's armor buckled. Blood pooled in his mouth. He spit it aside and grabbed the machine's neck. You think you're made to kill? He growled. But I was built for war. He activated his final mod. A pulse rippled out from his spine, energy arcing across his limbs. The prototype froze for a fraction of a second. Just enough. Callan rolled, lifted the machine with both arms, and hurled it into the fusion containment wall. The wall held. Barely. The prototype stumbled back, sparks dripping from open joints. Parts of it convulsed, feedback from the neuroburner Thornwell initiated. Its mind, if it had one, was fracturing. It lunged again. This time, Callan let it come. He braced, caught the assault, and walked forward, step by step, shoving the thing back toward the edge of the reactor pit. You never learned to feel, he said, voice sharp through gritted teeth. That's why you lose. He forced the prototype's head down and drove his fist through its chest. Electric discharge exploded outward. The creature spasmed. Callan lifted it high, muscles tearing, armor cracking, and threw it into the reactor core. A flare of blue-white light surged upward. The containment field groaned. And then the prototype was gone, vaporized in fusion fire. Above, Thornwell staggered, blood leaking from his nose. Neural backlash hit him like a hammer. No, that's impossible, he stuttered, dragging himself toward the escape lift. That wasn't supposed to happen. Maeva appeared in the doorway. Gun in hand? I told you, she said softly. You weren't ready for what was coming. He raised his hands, coughing. Listen, we can rebuild this. Share it. You're both relics. Outdated. The future. Callan stepped in behind her. Thornwell saw him and finally understood fear. You killed it? He asked. Callan's eyes glowed faint blue. I erased it. Don't, please. Callan didn't move. Maeva did. She lowered her weapon. You're not worth the bullet. She tapped her wristband. The room locked. Reactor countdown, 117. Wait, what are you? Maeva turned. I'm letting your brilliance burn with the rest of your sins. They didn't run. They moved, with practiced urgency, not panic. Back through the broken vent. Across the ruined stairwell. Through the silent security gate. Every route pre-mapped. Every motion rehearsed in her head a dozen times. The station trembled again. A deep, stomach-churning vibration. The reactor was heating fast. Callan reached the escape pod bay and tossed the lock open. Maeva climbed in first. "Once we eject," she said, strapping in, "Delta 9's going to vanish from every registry in the solar net. No survivors. No witnesses. Just a ghost story," Callan said, settling beside her. She smiled. "I like those." Thornwell died screaming, alone. The core went critical. Delta 9 exploded silently in the shadow of Titan. No broadcast. No distress signal. Only static. 1 week later, a broadcast signal bounced across civilian channels in deep space. No origin. No signature. Just 5 words. "He is not forgotten," Juggernaut confirmed. The Terran Council dismissed it as propaganda. Privately, their war analysts requested new contingency plans. Because if he was alive, they needed to prepare.